Most people think peace comes after success. That calm, clarity, and purpose will arrive once they've earned enough, achieved enough, or proved themselves enough. But Jay Shetty discovered the opposite. True peace doesn't come after the noise. It comes when you learn to step away from the noise. Not just once, but as a practice, as a way of life. In Think Like a Monk, Shetty shares a journey few people even imagine taking. He left behind the expected path, college, career, social approval, to spend years in a monastery. No phones. No followers. No praise. Just silence, simplicity, and the ancient teachings of mindfulness, purpose, and service. But this isn't just a story about spiritual retreat. It's a blueprint for modern living. Because the greatest revelation Shetty had was this: you don't need to become a monk to think like one. You don't need to renounce ambition or relationships. You don't need to escape the world. You need to learn how to operate within the world, without letting it consume you. That's the promise of this book. And if you stay with this video until the end, you'll discover how to apply monk wisdom to the chaos of modern life. You'll learn how to master your mind instead of being mastered by it. How to find clarity in the middle of confusion. How to create purpose where others feel lost. And how to lead a life of intention, even when distractions never stop. But more importantly, you'll begin to see that the identity you've built, the one shaped by family expectations, social comparison, fear of missing out, is not who you really are. It's a mask. A performance. And the moment you recognize that is the moment you begin to step into authenticity. Shetty doesn't offer vague inspiration. He offers practical paths. He reveals how ancient techniques of breathwork, visualization, mantra, and self-inquiry can reshape your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, and even your relationships. He shows how to break the negative cycles that keep you trapped in stress, anger, jealousy, and insecurity. And he shares how to build new patterns rooted in gratitude, service, discipline, and love. If you've ever felt like you're moving fast but going nowhere, if you've ever looked successful but felt hollow inside, if you've ever craved meaning but didn't know where to find it, this isn't just a book. It's a turning point. And as we journey through these insights together, you'll discover that thinking like a monk isn't about becoming less ambitious. It's about becoming more intentional. Not about giving up desires, but about choosing desires that lead to real fulfillment. We'll explore how to declutter your mind, detach from toxic influences, build powerful habits, navigate fear, and lead with compassion instead of competition. Because in a world that values noise, speed, and surface success, the ability to create stillness, clarity, and depth is a superpower. And it's one you can learn. Starting now. Let's begin. Part 1. The Monkey Mind versus the Monk Mind. Before you can build peace, you have to understand the enemy of peace. And for most people, that enemy isn't the world. It's not other people. It's not even their problems. It's their own mind. Jay Shetty calls it the monkey mind. A restless, noisy, impulsive voice that jumps from thought to thought, craving distractions, avoiding discomfort, reacting to every fear and desire that crosses its path. We all have it. The monkey mind is the part of us that checks notifications even when we don't want to. That spirals into worry about things that haven't happened yet. That criticizes, compares, complains. That's constantly chasing validation and running from stillness. It's not broken. It's just untamed. And that's where the monk's wisdom begins. The monks Shetty trained with didn't try to destroy the monkey mind. They learned to retrain it. To shift from reactivity to reflection. From fear to curiosity. From distraction to presence. This shift creates what Shetty calls the monk mind. The monk mind watches thoughts instead of becoming them. It responds instead of reacting. It pauses before choosing. It doesn't suppress emotions, but observes them without being ruled by them. It creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space, it finds freedom. Shetty explains that the first step in this transformation is awareness. Most people live at the mercy of their thoughts because they don't even realize they're thinking. They're submerged in the stream of mental chatter, carried along without choice. Monks learn to rise above that stream and observe it. Meditation isn't about stopping thoughts. It's about seeing them clearly, without judgment. Naming the monkey mind's tricks. Recognizing the patterns. And in that recognition, loosening their grip. Shetty shares that even short moments of daily reflection can begin this process. Simple practices like noticing when you're distracted, pausing when emotions surge, and choosing to redirect your attention instead of being yanked around by it. Over time, these moments add up. The monkey mind loses its power. The monk mind strengthens. But it's not just about personal calm. The monk mind creates better decisions. It reduces the emotional overreactions that damage relationships. It stops the endless comparison that fuels insecurity. It replaces short-term gratification with long-term growth. And most importantly, it opens the door to purpose. Because when your mind is no longer a battlefield of conflicting thoughts, fears, and impulses, you can finally hear the quiet voice beneath the noise, the voice of your values. The voice that asks not, "What will make me look good?" but, "What will bring real meaning?" Shetty's journey began when he realized his own monkey mind was leading him toward a life that looked successful but felt empty. His decision to join the monastery wasn't an escape. It was an act of reclaiming his mind, his time, his life. And the message he brings back to the modern world is simple but powerful. You don't have to abandon your job, your family, or your ambitions to think like a monk. You just have to stop letting the monkey mind drive the car. Once you recognize the difference between the two minds, every moment becomes a choice. A chance to respond instead of react. To build instead of destroy. To move with clarity instead of chaos. That's where the journey begins. Part 2. Letting go of negative influences. Once you recognize the noise inside your own mind, the next step is to confront the noise around you. Because even the strongest monk mind can't thrive in a toxic environment. Jay Shetty learned early in his training that growth isn't just about adding new habits or thoughts. It's about removing what holds you back. It's about letting go. Negative influences come in many forms. Some are obvious: relationships that drain you, jobs that suffocate your purpose, habits that lead to anxiety or shame. Others are subtle. The constant scroll of social media that feeds comparison and insecurity. The news cycles designed to keep you angry or afraid. The casual conversations filled with gossip, criticism, or complaint. Most people tolerate these influences because they feel normal. They blend into the background. They become part of the scenery of modern life. But monks see what others overlook. They know that whatever fills your mind shapes your reality. And that means choosing what you allow in. Shetty describes how monks carefully curate not just their physical spaces, but their mental diets. They limit exposure to negativity. They surround themselves with people and content that uplift rather than drain. They don't waste energy fighting every toxic influence. They simply step away from it. And this isn't about avoidance. It's about intentional design. The mind, like a garden, can only flourish when weeds are removed. Shetty shares that in his own life, this meant distancing himself from relationships that revolved around shallow goals or constant complaint. It meant reducing time spent with media that triggered fear without offering solutions. It meant replacing negative patterns with spaces for reflection, learning, and growth. He's clear that this process doesn't require perfection. You won't eliminate every negative influence overnight. But even small changes matter. Unfollowing accounts that fuel comparison. Limiting time with people who only take, never give. Choosing books, podcasts, and conversations that inspire rather than exhaust. There's also a deeper layer to letting go, the internal influences. The voices from the past that tell you you're not enough. The self-doubt that whispers you'll fail. The guilt that clings to old mistakes. Monks are trained not to suppress these voices, but to face them with compassion and then release them. To rewrite the stories that no longer serve. Shetty explains that letting go isn't about becoming emotionally numb. It's about creating space. Space for clarity. Space for purpose. Space for new, healthier influences to take root. And as you clear that space, something powerful happens. The monkey mind loses one of its strongest allies: distraction. The constant stream of external noise that feeds its restlessness begins to quiet. And in that quiet, the monk mind grows stronger. You begin to notice what truly matters, who truly supports you, what truly brings peace. Letting go isn't loss. It's liberation. And it prepares you for the next step, not just removing the negative, but replacing it with the positive forces that will shape your growth. Part 3. Cultivating purpose and intention. Once the noise fades and the negative influences begin to fall away, a new space opens. And for many, that space feels unfamiliar, even unsettling. Without distractions, the mind starts to ask deeper questions. Why am I here? What really matters to me? Where am I going? Jay Shetty teaches that this is not a void. It's an invitation, an opportunity to stop living by default and start living by design. Purpose is not something you stumble upon. It's something you cultivate. And it starts by shifting your focus from what the world expects to what your values demand. Shetty explains that most people inherit their goals. They chase what they've been told to want: money, status, approval, without questioning whether those desires align with their deeper self. Monks are trained to ask a different set of questions. Not what will make me look successful, but what will bring me lasting fulfillment. Not how can I win, but how can I serve. Shetty emphasizes that purpose often hides not in what you love to receive, but in what you love to give. What problems are you drawn to solve? What kind of impact feels meaningful, not just impressive? Purpose grows at the intersection of your strengths, your values, and the needs of others. But identifying purpose is only the beginning. Living it requires intention. And intention, Shetty says, is the art of aligning your daily actions with your deeper goals. Most people experience a painful gap between what they say they value and how they actually spend their time. They might claim to value family but work late every night. Claim to value health but neglect rest and movement. Claim to value growth but avoid discomfort. The monk mind closes that gap. It brings awareness to choices that seem small but shape destiny. Shetty teaches that even mundane decisions, what you read, who you spend time with, how you respond to setbacks, either align with your purpose or pull you away from it. To cultivate intention, he recommends building rituals. Simple, repeatable actions that reinforce your values. Morning reflections. Evening gratitude. Acts of service. These rituals serve as anchors. When distractions pull, they pull you back to center. Shetty also reminds us that purpose evolves. What fulfills you at one stage of life may shift at another. The monk mind stays flexible, adjusting actions while staying rooted in core values. And purpose isn't always grand. It doesn't have to be a world-changing mission. Sometimes, it's as simple as bringing kindness to your relationships, excellence to your work, or presence to your moments. What matters is that it's chosen, not inherited. Lived, not just imagined. Because when you stop reacting to life and start living with intention, the anxiety of uncertainty fades. Challenges become meaningful. Success becomes redefined, not as achievement for its own sake, but as alignment between who you are and what you do. That's how monks live. And it's how anyone, in any walk of life, can begin to live. Not rushed, not reactive, but with clarity, purpose, and peace. Part 4. Training the mind for discipline and growth. Clarity and purpose are powerful. But without discipline, they remain dreams. Jay Shetty learned early in the monastery that wanting peace, focus, and growth isn't enough. You have to train for them. Just like the body needs consistent exercise to stay strong, the mind requires consistent practice to stay steady and resilient. Most people think discipline is about restriction, about forcing yourself to do things you dislike. But monks see discipline differently. For them, it's not a punishment. It's a form of love. A commitment to protect what matters most, even when it's difficult. Shetty explains that discipline begins with understanding the mind's natural resistance. The monkey mind craves ease. It prefers the familiar over the meaningful. It will always choose short-term comfort over long-term growth, unless you teach it otherwise. That's why monks create rituals. Not just religious rituals, but daily practices designed to strengthen willpower, focus, and resilience. Simple actions, repeated consistently, that signal to the mind, this is who I am. This is what I value. For Shetty, that meant waking early, meditating before dawn, performing tasks with full attention, even when those tasks were repetitive or mundane. Washing floors, preparing meals, sitting in silence. Each act became a training ground for discipline. Not because the actions themselves were extraordinary, but because they built the capacity to stay committed, even when motivation faded. And that's the key. Discipline isn't about feeling motivated every day. It's about honoring commitments when motivation is gone. The monk mind knows that motivation is temporary. Discipline is what carries you forward when the excitement wears off. Shetty also emphasizes that discipline must be paired with compassion. Monks don't expect perfection. They expect persistence. When setbacks happen, and they always do, the response isn't harsh self-criticism. It's reflection, learning, and then returning to the path. In modern life, this mindset translates into habits that align with your purpose. Morning routines that ground you. Intentional breaks that prevent burnout. Learning rituals that expand your mind. Health practices that support your body. Boundaries that protect your energy. But perhaps the most transformative aspect of discipline, Shetty says, is that it changes your identity. Each time you act with discipline, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who can be trusted. Someone who follows through. Someone who chooses growth over comfort. And over time, that belief becomes self-fulfilling. Discipline no longer feels like effort. It feels like integrity. The people who achieve not just success but fulfillment aren't the most talented. They're the most disciplined. Not because they never fail, but because they never quit aligning their actions with their purpose. That's the monk mind at work. And it's a skill anyone can build, one choice at a time. Part 5. Transforming fear and negativity into growth. Even with clarity, intention, and discipline, the journey isn't smooth. Fear still rises. Negativity still creeps in. The difference between the monkey mind and the monk mind isn't the absence of difficult emotions. It's the relationship with them. Jay Shetty explains that most people try to suppress or avoid fear. They distract themselves. They deny what they feel. But monks are taught to do the opposite. To turn toward fear. To study it. To understand its roots. Because fear, when faced with awareness, often reveals where growth is most needed. Shetty shares that fear usually points to attachment. We fear losing what we cling to: status, approval, comfort, control. Monks learn to loosen these attachments, not to become indifferent, but to free themselves from the emotional chains that limit their choices. When you stop fearing the loss of what you cannot control, fear loses much of its power. It no longer dictates your decisions. It becomes a signal, not a master. The same approach applies to negativity. Shetty explains that negative emotions, anger, jealousy, frustration, are not enemies. They are messengers. They highlight areas where values are being compromised, where expectations clash with reality, or where deeper wounds remain unhealed. Rather than suppressing these emotions or letting them explode, monks learn to observe them without judgment. They ask, "What is this feeling trying to teach me?" That question transforms negativity from a destructive force into a catalyst for growth. Shetty offers practical strategies for this emotional alchemy. Breath work to calm the nervous system. Reflection practices to reframe thoughts. Acts of service to shift focus from self-centered fear to compassion for others. He also emphasizes the importance of environment. Surrounding yourself with people who uplift, rather than amplify negativity. Choosing media and content that inspire resilience instead of feeding fear. The people and messages you absorb shape the way you interpret and respond to challenging emotions. But perhaps the most powerful insight Shetty shares is that growth often hides behind resistance. The tasks you avoid. The conversations you postpone. The risks you fear. These are not signs of weakness. They are markers pointing toward the next level of your evolution. Monks embrace discomfort as part of the journey. They see it not as punishment, but as preparation. Each time you face fear and negativity with awareness and intention, you train your mind to respond with wisdom rather than impulse. And over time, something remarkable happens. Fear becomes smaller. Negativity becomes quieter. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. The monk mind isn't fearless. It's courageous. It doesn't avoid difficulty. It grows through it. That's the path of transformation. And it's available to anyone willing to stop running from discomfort and start learning from it. Part 6. Building compassion, gratitude, and service. A disciplined mind can achieve great things. A purposeful mind can create meaning. But a mind rooted in compassion and service transcends personal success. It becomes a force for healing and connection, not just for the individual, but for the community and the world. Jay Shetty explains that monks don't train discipline and clarity for their own sake. They do it so they can serve others with wisdom and strength. Compassion is not just feeling sympathy. It's understanding the struggles of others without judgment. It's recognizing that everyone, in some way, carries burdens and battles unseen. Shetty learned that monks practice compassion by listening without fixing, by offering presence instead of quick solutions, by seeing beyond someone's behavior to the pain or fear driving it. This kind of empathy changes relationships. It dissolves defensiveness. It creates space where honesty and healing can emerge. And it reminds you that connection is not built on perfection, but on understanding. Gratitude deepens this connection. While modern culture often teaches us to focus on what's missing, monks cultivate the habit of noticing what's present. Shetty shares that simple daily reflections on what you're grateful for, not grand achievements, but small, steady blessings, can rewire the brain toward positivity and resilience. Gratitude shifts focus from scarcity to abundance, from complaint to contentment. And when combined with compassion, it creates a mindset that sees life not as a series of obstacles, but as a series of opportunities to grow and give. Service is the natural extension of this mindset. Shetty emphasizes that purpose without service is incomplete. True fulfillment comes not just from aligning actions with values, but from using those actions to uplift others. Service doesn't have to mean grand acts or public charity. It can be as simple as offering time, attention, or encouragement to someone in need, as mentoring a younger colleague, as supporting a friend through hardship, as choosing kindness in moments when anger feels easier. Shetty also reminds us that service benefits not just the receiver, but the giver. Acts of service reduce self-centeredness. They break the cycle of overthinking and comparison. They ground you in the reality that your struggles are part of a larger human experience, and that you have the power to make even a small part of that experience better for someone else. The monk mind doesn't ask, "What can I get?" It asks, "What can I give?" Not because it's moral, but because giving aligns the mind with growth, connection, and peace. Over time, compassion, gratitude, and service stop being separate practices. They become a way of living. They shape how you see the world, how you approach challenges, and how you define success. And they lead to the highest form of fulfillment, the knowledge that your life has not just improved your own experience, but has lightened the path for others. That's the mark of true wisdom. That's the legacy of the monk mind. Part 7. The lifelong practice of the monk mind. By the time Jay Shetty left the monastery, he had learned that thinking like a monk wasn't a phase. It wasn't a temporary escape from the pressures of the world. It was a lifelong practice, a way of approaching every moment, every relationship, and every challenge with clarity, purpose, and compassion. The monk mind isn't something you achieve and then possess forever. It's a mindset you choose again and again, especially when life tries to pull you back into distraction, fear, and reactivity. Shetty reminds us that even the monks themselves are not immune to struggle. They experience doubt, frustration, and failure. But they respond with persistence, reflection, and recommitment. That's what makes their mindset resilient. Not perfection, but perseverance. In modern life, this means understanding that the journey of self-mastery doesn't end when you achieve a goal, break a bad habit, or learn a new skill. Every new season of life brings fresh challenges, new attachments, unexpected fears. The monk mind adapts. It continues observing. It continues choosing. Daily rituals anchor this practice. Meditation to center the mind. Reflection to align actions with values. Gratitude to shift perspective. acts of service to maintain purpose beyond the self. These aren't just spiritual exercises. They're tools for navigating the complexity of a fast, noisy, demanding world. Shetty also emphasizes the importance of community. Monks live and grow together for a reason. Transformation is difficult in isolation. Surrounding yourself with people who share your values, who encourage your growth, and who hold you accountable strengthens your monk mind. But even in moments when you feel alone, when no one seems to understand your path, the principles remain steady. Detach from what you cannot control. Cultivate discipline and compassion. Face fear with curiosity. Serve with humility. Seek growth over comfort. The lifelong practice of the monk mind leads not to a life free of problems, but to a life where problems become teachers, where challenges become catalysts, where even suffering can lead to wisdom and deeper connection. And in that practice, you discover that peace is not a distant reward. It's a present choice. You stop chasing happiness as a destination and start creating fulfillment in the moment you're living now. That's the true freedom Shetty offers. Not a life without noise, but a mind that remains calm and clear, no matter how loud the world becomes. Conclusion: living with clarity in a noisy world, think like a monk, isn't just a guide to finding peace. It's a reminder that peace, purpose, and clarity are not distant goals. They are daily choices. They are the result of intentional living in a world that constantly tempts us toward distraction, fear, and surface success. Jay Shetty shows that you don't need to escape your career, your family, or your ambitions to think like a monk. You need to escape the mindsets that keep you reactive, restless, and disconnected. The monkey mind can be tamed. The monk mind can be cultivated. And the life you desire, a life of meaning, resilience, and fulfillment, is not as far away as it seems. You've learned how to recognize the patterns of the monkey mind, how to clear negative influences, how to cultivate purpose and intention, how to build discipline, how to transform fear into growth, how to foster compassion and service, and how to sustain this mindset as a lifelong practice. But knowledge alone changes nothing. Action creates transformation. So ask yourself, which practice will you begin today? What influence will you release? What purpose will you pursue with clarity? What small act of service can you offer right now? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear which insight from this video resonated most deeply with you. And if this breakdown gave you a new perspective, share it with someone ready to break free from the noise and create a life of meaning. You can also find the full book Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty in the affiliate link below. It's a resource you'll return to again and again as you strengthen your monk mind. Here at Compact Wisdom, we take powerful books and translate them into clear, actionable insights, so you can not only learn, but live the wisdom that creates real change. Thank you for watching. And remember, peace is not found. Peace is built, one clear, purposeful choice at a time.